Ann Coulter joins me now, and finally, I have a copy of her book, Resistance is Futile, the latest from Ann Coulter, How the Trump-Hating Left Has Lost Its Collective Mind. And Ann, by all accounts, they continue to lose their mind. They keep nominating people like Julia Sanchez and, Ocasio-Cortez and the rest of this bunch. And you've pointed out, I thought you had a great take on this, that these folks are turning the media into America's hall monitors. What do you mean by that?
Yes, well, mostly, I do love Trump for, I would like him to be our official, the Republican Party's official tweeter, and just do all the talking for the presidency, and then, let Stephen Miller run the country. Because I loved a couple of his tweets this week, including his attack on the social media, as they're called, the tech giants, Google. Twitter is actually the best. And it happens to be my favorite. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, they're throwing off conservatives right and left. I know they think they have the moral high ground with Alex Jones and the Sandy Hook conspiracy theory, but as for one thing, conspiracy theories aren't illegal. We have a lot of them. Spike Lee has a documentary about how George Bush planted dynamite in the World Trade Center, and it was shown at Sundance. There are lots of conspiracy theories. That is protected by the First Amendment on the theory that the way you dispose of conspiracy theories is by bringing them out in the air, bringing them out into the sunlight. In any event, the Sandy Hook thing was like 5 years ago. They're really going after Alex Jones because he's a Trump supporter and he's an immigration patriot. But how about Dennis Prager? For Pete's sake, his incredibly erudite YouTube videos were deplatformed for rather a long time. I understand there's a lot of shadow banning going on. I've been told I'm shadow banned, and that is where they essentially mute your account. You think you have 2 million followers, but only 70,000 people are actually seeing your tweets unless they go directly to your feed. So thank you, Trump, for raising this issue. Of course, this is what the left is doing. They control all the cultural institutions in America, Hollywood, the media, Silicon Valley, the big corporations. They're all flying their rainbow flags. They have the swamp. The one place people can get information outside of Brian Williams, ABC, NBC, CBS, the New York Times, is the Internet. And they see, I think quite correctly, we can't overcome people talking to one another online. Even with our total control of the media, Donald Trump still won. We have got to be focused like a laser beam on shutting down conservatives on the Internet. It's something I feared for a long time. That, I just wake up one day, I'd try to email you, Lars, and it wouldn't go through. I'd try to click on Breitbart, and it wouldn't load. No, that is, of course, what they're fixated on now. And so thank you, Trump, for raising it. It is all these little, I cited, I really hate Facebook, and it used to be that my tweets, and oh man, this took forever to work out, my tweets would just go automatically to Facebook. Facebook is the most user-unfriendly. I so hate it. I really just wish the whole thing would collapse when the rest of the world realizes that it's user-unfriendly. Twitter is fun. Twitter is for intellectuals. You just send a post out there. It's not, chit-chatting with your college friends. In any event, I got a notice from Facebook that I had violated community standards for retweeting an article on Breitbart by the great John Binder about a bunch of illegal aliens ganging up on a United States senator screaming, F this conservative, except they weren't saying F, and F this man. Even though, weirdly, I guess they don't read because Tom Tillis is all for amnesty. Anyway, they didn't know that. He's a Republican, so they were cursing at him. That was the headline of the article. And VDare, a pro-immigration website that has basically all of Trump's positions on immigration, which is why they'd like to shut that website down too, had tweeted out in response to this article, and this was the whole thing I retweeted, something like, Mr. Real Donald Trump, that's his name on Twitter, deport these parasites. They hate you. They hate your party. They hate the American country. And so I retweeted it without comments. I liked what both of them had to say. Retweeted it. And Julia Smolenka or something like that emails me and tells me this tweet violated community standards. Please take it down, or we'll take it down for you. You have been reported. Someone reported this. So I said, sure. I didn't add because I really don't like Facebook. I don't care. As long as it's on Twitter, I'm fine. I said, sure, but could you work a little more on making Facebook more user-friendly, because there's no button for delete. And by the way, what's the problem? What violated community standards? Are you not allowed to use the word parasite? She came back and said, yes, you are referring to immigrants as parasites.
But
I emailed her back saying, no, I'm not. It specifically says illegal immigrants. Never heard from little Julia again, hall monitor. But she did apparently go in and delete that tweet that had been transferred to Facebook. But it does live forever on Twitter, because Twitter is much more amenable to the First Amendment, apparently.
Well, Ann, I love the First Amendment, which is why I don't want social media regulated by the government. I don't want it turned into a public.
They're regulating us.
I know, I get that, but I don't want the government to come in and say, we're going to regulate free speech, because when they regulate their free speech, Zuckerberg's free speech, they have the potential to regulate my free speech. I prefer I prefer the thing that you've suggested, which is
First Amendment.
President goes out and shames them into straightening up their act.
We're going to have another president who won't. I think we need some changes in the laws to treat them as a public utility. All that happens is they live under the same First Amendment rules as a public square. We have a whole body of law on what the First Amendment requires. These are our public squares today. You can't have bookstores, for example, refusing or a bookstore can carry whatever it wants to, but you can't have a town saying we won't allow any pro-Hillary information in this town. We won't allow speakers in the public square. You can't pass out a pamphlet that supports Hillary Clinton, but you can pass out a pamphlet supporting Donald Trump. Obviously, that would never happen. It would be the reverse. I got my example wrong for you. But I'm imagining it's like talking about a unicorn in my metaphor. Just apply the First Amendment to it. Take it to court.
Well,
those laws exist. It's not some faceless bureaucrat telling Twitter what to do. We have a body of law, and these are natural monopolies. They are utilities. They should not be able to throw people off. I mean, if they want to say we are not a place where people can engage in speech, we are editors like the New York Times, well, then, screw them. We can start suing them for defamation and so on.
Well, and in fact, that's the threat that's been laid down by even somebody like Ron Wyden, who's not exactly God's gift to conservative thought. He's a liberal, but he said, we'll take away your I think it's called 230 protection that protects you from legal liability. But gosh,
right, because that was their argument. We're not the ones doing the speaking here. We're just creating this forum where people can post videos or they can chat. We have the technology to create this gigantic public square. Okay, fine. Then you live under the First Amendment. And if you're not living under the First Amendment, if you're excluding some voices, well, then you're behaving like the editor of the New York Times.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
The new book is called Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. Its author is Ann Coulter. Ann, thank you so very much.
See you next week in Washington. I'll be there Wednesday after all.
Absolutely right. For Feet to the Fire, Ann Coulter will be there, and we'll be right back on The Lars Larson Show.